But among the most remarkable aspects of today's economy, the most remarkable aspect, and actually the one that we need going forward, is the local indigenous entrepreneurial sector. Obviously, foreign direct investment, very, very, very important, but also very movable. It is your local indigenous entrepreneur, working globally or working locally, who roots you in community, who has loyalty to community, and who ultimately we rely on for the future development of our society. And in that sector, women are beginning to play a really very, very important role in that entrepreneurial world. Now, it's not all plain sailing, as you've heard from Christine. I mean, women are very, very underrepresented in the field of entrepreneurialism, and any of you who are reading the papers today will know that Professor Francis Ruan has just published a mighty study in the Republic, just today in fact, on women in industry, which tells us very powerfully that actually women industrialists are not doing as well as their male counterparts, and that where women work alongside men in industry, they are doing better, but when they're working on their own, they're not. We could actually rehearse around the tables all the reasons why that might be so, why they're not as globalised, why they tend to work locally, why they tend not to have the same productivity. We know the reasons. The reasons are structural. They are none of them rocket science, and these are the obstacles that we will put our collective brains together to getting out of the way so that that story will change very rapidly. And the new chapter in the economic history of Ireland is complemented, of course, thankfully. And we have a lot to look forward to because, again, we just have to keep telling ourselves we are at the beginning. That's where we are. We are positioned at the beginning of really quite a radical catharsis that is coming down the line, and a very good one. And allied, of course, to the economic success story, thankfully, we have this remarkably changed political context. For the first time, those who share this island have the opportunity to live their lives in the context of very, very altered and much healthier relationships. Peace and devolved government now here in Northern Ireland are presaging an era in which the talents of all citizens, please goodness, will reveal what this place is truly capable of when all its citizens work with each other, for each other and through each other for the betterment of all. That intercommunal conflict just was so wasteful of all that talent, and that culture is fading now. It's on the wane. And I think increasingly people do understand that if you want to be prosperous and if you want to be peaceful, if you want that for yourself, the best way of guaranteeing it is to make sure that everybody has it. Not just one section, but everybody. And of course the good news too for everybody who's involved in the world of business, North-South relationships are now set on a much happier course, the old distrusts and mistrusts fading again into oblivion. A new culture of good neighbourliness, a new culture of partnership, which is creating very, very important, good strategic opportunities for good partnerships, for alliances of all sorts for those who are involved in business. And that's very important because, you know, we're a small island, and a very, very small island, and peripheral to mainland Europe. And here we are, and it is really one of the saddest things for me for years when I was making speeches about the economy, to have to acknowledge that the land border inside the European Union with the least commerce across it was this one, on this island. Now, that plain and simply is daft. If you have goods to sell, the cheapest people to sell them to are the people next door to you. And the easiest people to sell them to are the people next door to you. And particularly when they've got money in their pockets, it seems to me they're a very obvious consumer base. And yet, why? All the vanities of history contributed to keep us from doing the obvious thing, the sensible thing, the intelligent and the prospering thing, and we didn't do it. But anyway, please goodness, we're not going to play those silly games for the future because they just cost us too much. On the island of Ireland, we now have a tremendous opportunity to work strategically together. It was wonderful to see the first trade delegation heading off to India, a joint trade delegation from north and south. And I think more and more where it makes sense to do that, we will see those kinds of alliances. And happily too, of course, the other big overarching context which is changing things is the Dublin-Westminster relationship, which now, having gone from fraught, has moved very, very rapidly to solid and friendly and very collegial. And our common membership of the European Union brings just home to us how much we have invested in one another's future. So the future of this island is a story in which the entrepreneur has to play. We need the entrepreneurs to create the jobs, to create the wealth, to create the opportunities, to give people chances and choices in their lives. Very interesting. I don't know if any of you noticed lately, but there was an opinion poll in the Republic. Women were asked what their biggest priority was, and the biggest priority, sorry Martin, but it was financial independence. Financial independence. And what does that say? It says that women link financial independence. It's not that they're talking about having loads of money in their pockets and buying Prada. It's not about that. It's about human dignity. It's about making your choices in your life, your independence, your freedom. That's what it was saying. And it was a very, very interesting, a very, very telling statistic. So we need entrepreneurship. We need entrepreneurialism. We need imagination. We need people who are risk takers, who will take a punt. We do not need people who are risk averse. This is not a time for the risk averse. This is a time for the people who will take a punt, who will do what entrepreneurs do, take the risk. And we need the people who've got the imagination to see beyond the risk to its possibilities. These are the people who drive our competitiveness. These are the people who have changed the story, really, the story of the island of Ireland. And of course, the sad thing for them, of course, is that there's no day when their job is done. There's no day when you can say, I've sorted it, I can give up now, because we raise expectations. Every time we get better, we just want to get even better again. People's expectations, people's ambitions, of course, are very raised now, and there are great hopes, of course, that the peace process will now begin to truly deliver. So that's when people step up to the plate. That's when your risk takers say, I'll be the person to take the risk. Commerce, by its very nature, has an insatiable appetite. It constantly needs new brains. It needs new ideas. That's how it flourishes. It needs new people. The global economy, which was once a sleeping giant, is of course now well awake and really surging forward. You only have to look at the story of China, the story of India, which those two stories have changed so much in the last decade that anything you ever read about them up to 10 years ago, or even actually up to 7 or 8 years ago, is now completely redundant. These are countries, each of them with over 1 billion people, who want the kind of lives you and I have, incidentally, want the choices for their children that you and I have, want the education, want the opportunities, and they are on the move. And, we don't want to sell to all 1 billion of them, nice though that would be, but, we're a small country. If we could sell to a small number of them, we can, in the niche markets that we can create, we can do very, very well indeed. So we're at a time where ambition and opportunity are now converging in a way they never really have done before, since possibly the beginning of the first industrial revolution. And that was a revolution that was not really about a meritocracy. It was open to a small elite. This industrial revolution is open to virtually anybody who takes the opportunity and makes the opportunity and takes the risk. So we need Ireland, north and south, to be flying on 2 wings, not doing what we did in the past, faff about in 1 wing. And we were given 2 wings. We were given the male wing and the female wing. And when you think about it historically, not only did we try and fly on 1 wing, but we rather stupidly used that 1 wing we were trying to fly on. Every so often it would just turn around and wallop the other wing down, which, it's not a very pretty sight. A bird with 1 wing is not a pretty sight. So across the island of Ireland, there is, I think, a growing recognition of the truth in the saying that what got you here won't get you there. The place you want to get to now, and we have an ambition to get bigger, to get better, to do the things that we do better, to give much better services to our people, to build up our infrastructure, to give much greater opportunity and freedom of choice to people. So what got us to this place today is not what's going to take us to the place that we have an ambition to get to tomorrow.